All right, so I bought the Sirui 50mm full frame anamorphic lens used secondhand from somebody. So this is the first version of the Sirui anamorphic lenses. So it's got extra blue streaks on it. And then just a few days after it shows up, Sirui emails me. So they sent out their 100mm 1.6x full frame anamorphic lens, as well as their 1.25x adapter, which is on front of the 100mm lens right now, which essentially turns the 1.6 times full frame anamorphic lenses into 2 times full frame anamorphic lenses for a much more affordable price than a 2 times anamorphic lens. So I don't really have a whole lot of experience with anamorphic lenses outside of the lens I just bought and the lens they just sent me. So this video will be my review of Sirui's lenses, but also a little of my adventure learning how to work with anamorphic. Hi. Come here, dog. Come here. Come here. Come on. So my first challenge is when you slap that lens on there, the first thing you're gonna see is the stretched out anamorphic image on a non-de-squeezed monitor on the back of your camera. And if you just plug it into an HDMI port onto a monitor, you're gonna get the same thing. So you can get monitors that de-squeeze your anamorphic lenses. I found a different solution that'll work with any monitor. So I use the ATEM Mini Pro, and I slide into that software and I change the aspect ratio there to 1:0.5 if I've got the anamorphic lens and the adapter on, because it's a 2x anamorphic. And it will turn your image from that into that. So something you can work with. You can just basically squeeze and unsqueeze as much as you want. I take it back. The Ninja V was way easier to use while I was outside filming a little short film, and they're pretty cheap, and with the latest firmware, you can just cycle through a whole bunch of different anamorphic formats. The only real negative thing I have to say about the Sirui anamorphic lenses is the minimum focusing distance is really kind of far away, so you're definitely not going to get much of like a macro effect with these. Like if you're coming from something like the Sigma 24-70, which is right here, the minimum focusing distance is this close. Even closer when you go all the way down to 24mm. Now, let's put on something like the 50mm T2.9. Looks like we're a little too close there. Well, that's quite a bit further. Now let's try the 100mm. Looks like we've got to get a little further out. And now let's try with the 1.25x adapter. So it threads onto your lens like a lens filter, like any other normal ND filter or polarizing filter. Just screws on, and it does come with a few adapter rings. And then it's held in just with friction. And then you press this little button here, and then you can move it around smoothly. And then it's like a little, just a friction break. So it won't unscrew while you're doing this, unless you haven't screwed it on tight enough. What I like to do is I'll use like a flashlight or something. And we'll line it up just like that. Then you set your host lens to focus infinity, And then you just focus with this little guy down here. It's got quite a long focus throw. It's a little bit further. If your item that you're trying to film is a little bit closer to your camera, you can then use the other focus ring to kind of adjust. It's like creates kind of like this interplanar focus closer. It's just kind of weird and kind of dreamy. And then if you stop it down a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier to cover more of that range. It's really an interesting effect. With anamorphic lenses, whatever focal length you're filming, your shot will only ever take up a smaller percentage of the available screen size on your viewer's device, or you'll be cropping something out. This 100mm shot will only work as an anamorphic shot because a 50mm non-anamorphic lens just doesn't have enough coverage of the environment to inform you of what's happening in this scene. And you need those things in the environment to learn about what's happening in the scene. But if you take away the anamorphic aspect of this video, you take away important things in the environment that inform you what's happening. Anamorphic squeeze doesn't mean your lens is more fisheye. It means that you're capturing more information to the left and the right of the focal length that you've selected. And to get all that information onto someone's screen without it remaining distorted, you need to then squeeze the footage or add black bars. If you just zoom in and remove the black bars after that, what you're left with is a regular lens with sick lens flare. Movie theaters are a great medium to observe anamorphic films on because they're huge. But if you're filming with anamorphic lenses for distribution on vertical video platforms, you need to plan ahead and probably work with like some frame guides or something. I think working with anamorphic lenses can be challenging if you don't have the right equipment to do so. But Sirui has done an excellent job at making a solid product for people that are interested in working with anamorphic that don't want to break the bank. These lenses do seem to warm up the footage a good bit, and I think it's got to do with the blue lens flare. But as long as you remember to set your white balance after you put the lens on the camera, you should be fine. Or you can just always really easily correct it in post. And if you're working with anamorphic lenses, you probably know how to do that already too. I feel like lenses are the filmmaker's paintbrush, and we will use those brushes or lenses to create the worlds we see in our head and put them on screens. Some people like the visual element that an anamorphic lens can provide, but not everything needs to be anamorphic. No, get out of there. The lens flares are super fun though, and it does have a way of making all your footage feel more intentional. For now, it's another tool that I still need to learn more about and get more familiar with, but the build quality that Sirui has achieved is excellent, and I'm looking forward to using these lenses for a long time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.